Hello everybody, I hope you're keeping safe and well. So today I wanted to talk about how we set up our sketchbook pages and how by thinking about how we're laying them out and thinking about the sorts of variety of things that we put onto our pages, that in itself helps us tell the story of whatever it might be that we're wanting to explain or share. Now this picture in front of me here is a picture of my studio at Wood End. I'm not there at the moment, I'm in a small home studio, which in itself creates another interesting story. But I hope you can just see that very simply laid out with an image and some text that helps to explain what the image is about, and a smaller image here with a zoomed in view of a table and some chairs. It's quite a sort of simple layout. And I just want to bring this sheet of paper on to explain a little bit about what this is all about really. It's clear that you can lay things out exactly as you want to, no rules or anything, but there are some little tips which it's worth thinking about. One of the things that is quite commonly used is this idea of rule of thirds when you're laying out, whatever you're laying out really, on your pages. And the real thing about the rule of thirds is that by dividing, so here is an oblong, a rectangle, by dividing into three, whatever you do there versus there, it means that it's not all equal, and that makes it more interesting. So this idea of dividing it up, you can equally do that with a square. So you've got a third halved, heightened off there, and you could put whatever you wanted to on that bit, and then whatever you want to on that bit. But the idea is that by splitting it into thirds, you get this natural sense of proportion. And this in itself can help us in setting out our sketchbook pages. So if you just bear that in mind, and then I will show you again the sheet that I showed you before, which is this Wood End Mill studio that I've shared with you. So here you see that exactly in action. You've got a third of the page here, and then 2/3 here. And by having that imbalance, it makes it a more interesting composition. If I just divided it equally, everything would be equal and it wouldn't be as interesting. So you're kind of setting up a dynamic. So that's what I've done here. And actually, I've set this up as if it was a 2-page double spread. And so the second page, I've similarly divided it up. Now it might not look the same as the other sheet I just showed you, but there's a similarity in the sense that this is a third of the page, and then for this 2/3 I've then divided it up again so that I can show different views. And by breaking up your page and mixing between text and some drawings, some of which might be complete views like this one here, and some of which might be individual items like this here, it helps to kind of create interest. And in the text, you can use the text to lead your eye around and to explain, excuse me, some of the things that you want to highlight. So here, I've talked about how this area of my studio is set up and talked about the light in it and the scale and the character. So I've explained different aspects of the studio that I want to kind of pull out really, and drawn attention to different elements that I'm interested in. So what I want to do now is to show you how that works in my sketchbooks. So excuse me, this is my sketchbook, or one of them. Like I said, it's a double page, and quite interestingly, I have got which I now can't find, here we are, sorry about this. These tabs are all very well, but they don't always work. So this, very appropriately, given the time of year, is a double page spread, and I'll show you each page, but just so that you can see the whole thing. A double page spread, and we'll start with this page here. So hopefully you can see that. Don't ignore that bit for now. So you can see how I've laid this out. Now on this page, and each of the things I show you is done slightly differently, but with this page I've actually drawn a box around it, and I quite like that. Some people don't like it, and it's preference really. So I've drawn a sort of a box. I've drawn a street view there, which and the pink ties everything together all the way across the page, and I've used pink ink. And so I then, on this part of the the page. I haven't drawn a box around it, but I've drawn a loose picture of some of the blossom and the leaves, which is quite nicely contrasting with the detail of with the rather much more zoomed out view of the streetscape here. And then I've picked up the pink in the text and so on. So on the other page, I've divided it quite differently. So here is a third, and this is kind of the 2/3 bit, and I've actually then divided that like this. Now you could say, well, that's in half, and that kind of is, apart from the fact that the two halves aren't the same. So I've actually created a square box here, and the text is then wrapping around it. So it kind of creates an interesting juxtaposition really between the text and the visuals. And it's just worth, when you are starting a double page spread, if you're wanting to tell a story about something, whatever it might be, then it's kind of useful just to have a bit of a think about it before you go ahead and do it, rather than just putting something on the page and then thinking, oh, I wish I hadn't put that there, I could do this there and I could do that there. So kind of have that thought process at the beginning of your double page spread. Here's another one which is quite different. This is all, again, I'm going to show you one page after the other because I can't fit it all on. But if you see, this is all in black and white. This is a cityscape in Manchester. It's views of the Rochdale Canal. So I wanted to have different angled views. So I've done that all the way across the page. So here I've actually drawn a drawing up here and one on here to sort of have a sort of a diagonal setup, and then put the text either side. And I'm using the darks against the lights to kind of draw your eye around, and the text as well. And then on the other page, I've done it sort of differently. And I've literally then again done the thirds thing. So I've actually used the third to write some interesting text about the footbridge and the access, which is near the canal. And then this is a drawing that takes up, that's a much bigger drawing. So when you look at the page in total, it's quite interesting in terms of its variety, but you can see they're all connected and your eye is moved around by the text. And a final one in this sketchbook, I just wanted to show you this, because this is again, I don't know if you can see it, double page spread again. Very different, no boxes, no kind of organised squares or angles. This is just literally a double page spread with two different views. And this is the Manchester International Festival in Albert Square last year. So what I've used is I've used the kind of the roofs of the, or roofs, I'm not sure you call them roofs, this is the tents structures, the marquee structures, and I've used those to tie the two pages together, and then on either page there, and then on this other page here, if you can see, is the town hall. It kind of frames it, if you like. And then I've literally just got the two images kind of separately, and then the text here. And then on this page, I have left a kind of a third, which I would have put text on, although I'm not got around to doing it. So hopefully, with those two pages, you can see how I'm looking at how I sort of set things out. And as I say, it's really useful to sort of think about it beforehand, and maybe sort of to mark things out a little bit before you start. So that's that. So what I now want to talk to you about is how I would go about, from scratch, how I would go about it. So here is what I'm calling my lockdown sketchbook. And this is all things to do with how I'm spending my time, and ideas, thoughts, visuals, things that are all related to my time in lockdown and using a home studio. So I've got sort of various sketches here that I won't go through, but what I wanted to do was to show you how I go about it. So this is a double page spread, completely blank, as you can see, and my idea is that I want to create a double page that tells the story a little bit about this room that I'm recording from now, which is the back room in a terraced house, which I'm calling my home studio. So what I might do is exactly as I was sharing with you before, really. I don't want to put boxes around it. I think this is quite an angled sort of format as it is. I don't want to start sort of putting too many squares and boxes around it. But what I think I will do is, if I look at this square here, I think I want to do a really nice big view of this desk that I'm sitting at the moment and my wall space. And so I'm going to do a colour first image on there, and then on the other page I'm going to divide that up so I can put quite a lot of text and maybe one image on this side. So it gives me a chance to do a nice big drawing and to do a smaller, maybe a zoomed in view. I quite like the idea of doing my sort of painting table with all of the brushes and things on it as a smaller view, but to do a bigger view of, as I say, the desk and the whole sort of corner of the room I'm working in on this page. So what I'll do is literally, before I start, I know that that's going to be, you know, happy. I'm going to just do my colour first on there. I might put a title on it at some point depending on how the drawing works out, but with this one I want to be a bit more organised. So what I'm going to do here is I know that that width is 21 centimetres, so I know that a third of that is going to be 7 centimetres. So if I mark that off, I can just do this quite quickly just to show you, and then I'll probably just tag on to the end of this video, maybe just a stop frame to show you that image that I'm creating. So I've done there in pencil is just to mark out that 7 centimetres, and that's probably going to be text, because if I've got a whole drawing there, it will be nice to have some writing there. I might even use that to write on the on its side the title. So the idea is you are in these double page spreads, you create different interesting views in your drawings that are different to each other. One might be zoomed out, one zoomed in, one showing a detail, another showing a bigger view, and then text according to what you want to sort of explain and say, really, and including a date and you know, sort of titles and things like this. So on this page here, you can see, if I'm going to write there, I'd like to have a square here, and I think if I'm writing there, I'm probably going to want to have a square here. So again, I'm probably going to say, right, well, that could be my square. And I'm not necessarily going to keep with this pencil marks. I'm not going to make them into anything. And then I'm going to, oh, that's not quite straight. Anyway, I'll recheck that. But that, I then want to probably put some lines there, and I'll probably write some text there. That will probably be a title. That will be explanation. That will be a more detailed view, and this will be my big view. So hopefully, in the way I've explained that, you can just sort of see how I'm thinking about setting up the page. And the important thing is to think about how you might set it up, and in itself, by thinking about how you set up the page to tell the story you want to say, you might well come up with different ideas than if you just kind of got going without thinking about it. So it's all to the good, really. So as I say, I'll share this when it's done. I will share my drawings online under #everydaystories, so please follow me on my social media, if you feel like doing something like this, then please do share your stories, but if not, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Stay safe. Thanks very much. Bye bye.